Hello there. The Alongside YouTube channel exists to simply remind us of a forgotten fact, that God walks with us. So today we will take our own unique look at that Christian festival called Harvest. Harvest Festival in its current guise can be traced back to 1843, when the Reverend Robert Hawker invited parishioners to a special Thanksgiving service at his church in Cornwall. Of course, harvest celebrations predate Robert Hawker taking many forms, and our modern festivals also adapt to our circumstances. So, recognising this evolutionary process, I want to take a unique approach to today's festival. Jesus often used the natural metaphors to illustrate the kingdom of God, and today we draw on one such parable, the parable of the mustard seed, to guide our understanding. However, our focus should not be on the physical harvest of food and fields, but on people, us, as God's intended harvest. As God originally said to the first humans in Genesis, "Be fruitful and multiply." So let's take a moment to reflect and ponder on the journey, one that moves us from the visible fringes of God's kingdom to its beating heart. The parable of the mustard seed is a simple yet profound illustration. Another natural metaphor, the tree of life, spans across numerous civilizations, and this image offers itself as an extended metaphor that overlays Jesus' parable. The tree trunk represents the kingdom's core, Jesus himself, its living, beating heart. The branches signify Jesus' followers, reaching out from the trunk to the wider community and connecting back to its living source. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit or harvest. So the leafy canopy of the tree represents the visible and discernible fringes of God's unseen kingdom. Consider the fruits of the Spirit, such as kindness, love and joy. Or maybe Jesus' famous Sermon on the Mount, which underpins Christian values and influences our culture to this very day. Our political injustice system, institutions, charities and youth clubs, and many progressive movements have their roots in Jesus' teaching, providing a tantalizing glimpse of God's kingdom at work. Alternatively, visualize the local church within this tree. The trunk is the church's beating heart, and the canopy represents various clubs and activities. On the periphery and the branches are the human connections, those living bonds, members of the church linking the canopy to the trunk. How might people relate to this metaphorical tree in real terms? So let's consider institutional Christianity as akin to a grand old oak. Some people might live their lives with very little knowledge of the tree, occasionally coming and going through its branches. Other people, like famed biologist and atheist Richard Dawkins, was once keen to put an axe to the very trunk. Thankfully, Mr. Dawkins has mellowed over recent years and now calls himself a cultural Christian. Dawkins is a reluctant beneficiary of God's kingdom, probably locating himself in the leafy canopy without believing in the core beliefs, the trunk itself. But on the other hand, a friend of Dawkins, Ayan Hirsi Ali, who has often shared debating platforms with him, has moved closer to the tree. Ailey was a co-conspirator of New Atheism with Dawkins, but she struggled with depression for many years, and Ailey's therapist once provided an interesting diagnosis on her condition, suggesting she was spiritually bankrupt. This comment led her to pray meaningfully for the first time, and Ailey now embraces Christianity, believing in the resurrection, incarnation, and a personal relationship with God, the mystical reality of Christianity that Dawkins rejects. She has climbed through the leafy canopy and has touched the beating heart of the kingdom of God. But why is this relevant to our harvest festivals today? For years, Christianity has been on the retreat in the West, withering in on the vine. But things seem to be changing. Cultural Christianity, at least, appears to be making a comeback, as we see with Mr. Dawkins. People seem to be returning to Christianity's leafy canopy again. But here lies the challenge. Is that leafy canopy enough? Should we offer or embrace a cultural form of Christianity, providing all the benefits, but leaving out the challenge of the mystical elements? Or should we be seeking and offering more? Jesus answers this question with a riddle, one that opens up the unseen world behind the discernible fringes of God's kingdom. And he encourages people to climb below the canopy towards the beating heart of God's kingdom for ourselves. Think of a bouquet that looks fresh for a few days, but is essentially a good-looking corpse. Similarly, consider how our woodlands are affected by ash dieback disease, where the fungus blocks the trunk's water transport systems, causing it to die. Over the coming years, the British landscape will change as ash trees disappear from our woodlands. And similarly, if we neglect the roots of God's kingdom, if the trunk that sustains the churches in our country is unhealthy, the canopy can only last so long. So should we be content with merely offering or embracing the leafy canopy of cultural Christianity? So maybe we should remember that people's fruitful lives is God's intended harvest. So may we strive to maintain a healthy connection with the beating heart of God's kingdom. May we encourage others to move beyond the canopy and experience the beating heart of God's love and grace for themselves. So my friends, until next time, keep the faith. We don't walk alone, because God always walks alongside us.